Raven is a character that heavily relies on mix-ups to open up the opponent. He may not have the best frame data or punishment, however, he has some of the most scary mix-ups and damage in the game. Hey guys, GamerNemy here, and today I'm gonna give you 15 essential tips that you need to improve your gameplay if you're playing some Raven. You must know how to crouch dash with Raven. So a crouch dash is done by inputting quarter circle forward, then you can cancel this crouch dash by just inputting down to down forward. Now think of it like a wave dash, right? The Mishimas have a hell sweep and the forward 3 mix-up. Well, Raven has a full crouch mix-up between the sweep, tornado distraction low, and his while standing 3-2. And the thing about crouch dash is the fact that you can access all of his crouch moves, right? Which makes him a very scary character in terms of mix-up. He can basically 50-50 you every single time this character is in crouch in your face. So you must learn how to crouch dash cancel with Raven. It's very important with this character because it's like the B&B of how you move with this character. You are always a threat when you're dashing in your opponent's face. You'll be surprised as to just how much you catch your opponent ducking most of the times when you approach with a crouch dash. And the good thing about this crouch dash as well is that Raven actually has some good lows from his full crouch, and the fact that you can access this at any time because you're always crouch dashing in your opponent's face. You have access to all of these lows and always while standing mids as well. You can cancel to standing mids, standing lows. It is so good. You have to learn how to do this. This is no exception, so get Raven in practice mode and get good with your crouch dash. Raven's tornado distraction or his full crouch down forward 3+4 is perhaps his best low when it comes to opening up the opponent. It also gives some decent Oki and locks him in soul zone. Now the only issue is at high level every single option from soul zone can be beaten by front row, which is obviously really bad for Raven's sake because Raven has actually some scary Oki if the opponent decides to like press buttons or wake up with any other wake up option apart from front row. So now the best way to beat this is by cancelling his soul zone with a teleport that leaves you in crouch. So soul zone down will leave you in full crouch and force the mix up again once they get up from the ground. This is perhaps the best way to counter this wake up option. So speaking of Raven's soul zone teleports, you must know how every single one of them works. His down teleport, like I said earlier, will leave you at full crouch, making it easier for you to implement a full crouch mix up. If you tap back after soul zone, it will leave him back turned, making it easier to implement some back turned mix up. And if you tap up, it will leave him face forward to the opponent, which is just kind of like a mix up. So it's a very decent mix up too, because you don't really have to manually go into crouch after soul zone or manually go into back turn. Like I said, Raven is a very scary mix up character. Just implement this in your game plan, how you flow with the character, and trust me, it's gonna be so insane. Your opponent won't know what hit them with these teleports, bro. Like, it's so confusing facing a Raven doing this kind of shit. So now Raven is not a counter hit heavy character, however he has one of the best counter hit launching tools in while standing too. Now notice how this move comes from while standing. Remember we spoke about crouch dash earlier, and this is the main reason why crouch dashing is so important, because of while standing too. This has to be at least top 5 of Raven's best tools. Like, this thing is so good. The best thing about while standing too is the fact that it crushes jabs. It goes under high, so it is ridiculously good against certain matchups such as Mishimas that spam electrics a lot, and most importantly against Steve. It goes right under back one, it goes right under jabs. Now sometimes you would trade with jabs, you always want to time this correctly, and like I said, the fact that you have instant while crouch means you always have access to this move. Like, you can just do down forward one into instant while standing too. Like, that's just how good this crouch dash cancel really is, right? So if you master the crouch dash cancel and how you move with this character, you always have access to this tool, which is a very strong tool. Raven not having counter hit launchers means he is very susceptible to pressure himself, and this is where counter hit 1, 2, 4 comes into play. This is a 10 frame hit confirmable counter hit knockdown move, so you have to use this move for keep out. Like, this is your best friend in terms of keep out, because bro, Raven gets pressured like crazy. It's ridiculous. If you don't use this move, please implement it in your gameplay, because like I said, it's hit confirmable, not that easy to do, but the more you use it, the better you become at doing it. So again, use your 1, 2, 4 as a get off me move. Speaking of defensive tools, Raven's back 2+4 parry is another amazing defensive option. This is the only parry in the game that can counter a high, a mid, a throw, and a low. It's just that good. So it will leave you in crouch, meaning if they did something like super risky before you land in this parry, you can immediately crouch dash into like an instant or standing one, or if you want you can like crouch dash into full crouch, sweep the tornado distraction and just like go back on the offense immediately after the parry. Like it's just so good. It's so good. You have to use this parry as well. Now the best thing about this parry in my opinion is the fact that it's a 1 frame activation parry. Now what I mean by this is, let's say you're -9 and they throw out a jab, right? I have only 1 frame window to actually activate that parry, and it can actually come out despite being -9. It's just that good. So just to give you guys an example, after a hit engager, you are at -17. So with this Raven, he goes into hit and does forward 1+2, his power crush. So forward 1+2 is 18 frame startup, right? So I have 1 frame between being -17 and the Raven player actually doing forward 1+2. So now I can actually parry that forward 1+2 and actually go into crouch dash and like counter attack, right? Like it's just that good. It can get you out of some really tough situations. This parry is especially good against characters that are very offense oriented, more especially Hwoarang. It's amazing against Hwoarang. Like you have to use this parry. The risk is not that high because unlike most parries in the game, you can actually parry grabs as discussed previously, so it is really good. One of Raven's best defensive options without a doubt. Raven's back 2 is a 2-hit string that gels and is safe, but the thing about this move is that it has an inbuilt parry. Now this parry, unlike back 2+4, is a little bit more risky, so think of it like Leroy's up back 1. It's a built-in attack but has a parry in it. Now the timing is not as lenient as back 2+4. It will lose to grabs, it won't parry elbows as well, it will lose to lows, so not as good as back 2+4, a little bit more risky. You have to make a precise read before you do this move, so be very careful. Raven does not have the generic down forward 1 that most characters have in this game. Most characters down forward 1 comes out at 13 frames and are usually -3 on block. However, Raven's down forward 1 comes out at 14 frames and is only -2 on block. The best thing about Raven's down forward 1 is the tracking. It actually has good tracking both sides, to his left and his right. So think of his down forward 1 as a check and a tracking move. So it's a good defensive check and just to see if your opponent is moving around a lot. Now for his down back 2, which can be described as Raven's second down forward 1, he gets a trade-off of going into back turn. It comes out at 13 frames, however it's -4 on block. So this is a safe mid check. You can easily cancel your back turn by pressing back 3+4 of course, and on hit you get a free back turn mix-up. So just learn how to differentiate the two. So to make it simple, down forward 1 is defensive, a good check for side steps, and down forward 2 is the offensive down forward 1. Right, on hit you get a mix-up, on block you're better off just blocking and cancelling. But of course, Raven being a mix-up character, you can do risky stuff like power crush or go for like 443+4 and stuff like that. So earlier we discussed how tornado distraction or his full crouch low is the best way to open your opponent up. Well, back turn is kind of like a second strongest way that Raven can open the opponent up as well. He has access to back turn forward 4-1, which is a low high string, pretty risky but like it's pretty good. He also has other moves such as forward 3+4 from back turn, which is a launcher slide. It actually launches on normal hit whether far or closer to the opponent, and pretty has some decent mids as well. Now back turn is very risky with Raven as well. Like we all know, he's a very risky character, right? So try to mix up your opponent by throwing out safe stuff in back turn as well. Like back turn forward 3 is a good tool to use as a mix up with the forward 3+4. Back turn forward 3 is a good counter hit knockdown if they're mashing out of back turn, right? Stuff like forward 2-3, 1-1 is a 10 frame counter hit confirm move, right? So back turn is good but it's risky as well. Be smart about how you go about his back turn use. Speaking of back turn, as Raven, when your opponent sidesteps and goes behind your back, you will not realign yourself like most other characters in the game. If an opponent goes behind your back, you will stay in back turn. This is something that has been a problem with Raven since back in Tekken 5, so you must always be ready for this as a Raven player. You must always keep in mind that if you're stepped and the opponent goes behind your back, you will stay in back turn. So some good counters to this of course are parry and the power crush. Now these are like panic moves, they won't save you every time. That's the thing with Raven. He's a very risky character. You must be prepared to go through things like this. But like parry and power crush are decent options. They won't save you all the time, but you know, it's better than dying, right? Whenever Raven lands a clone in hit, whilst in hit, he recovers some hit gauge. So try to replace all your regular combos with combos that have clones in them. And not just that, even your neutral as well. Try to use the tools that have a high chance of actually landing a clone whilst in hit. Regaining this hit gauge keeps you on the offense as Raven. As usual, hit is always a very important resource to have in this game, and the fact that you can actually have it indefinitely with Raven is huge. So be smart about how you use Raven's hit. Raven's back 1+2 is another of his defensive options. However, this is the riskier of all of them, right? It's a very, very good backswing blow. Like, this man literally disappears from the screen. You know, when I mean he disappears from the screen, bro, I mean he literally vanishes from the screen and does a backswing blow. You can't hit Raven whilst he is in this state. It's a very good backswing blow defensive too, but it's risky and it's launch punishable, so keep that in mind. Raven has one of the best hit smashes in the game when it comes to range. The range is ridiculous and the damage is good as well at 55. However, this hit smash is linear AF. You can easily step this hit smash. It's ridiculous and it has horrible whiff recovery as well. So be very, very careful when you throw this out. Think of Devojin's nerf, right? Devojin's nerfed hit smash is exactly how Raven's hit smash has always been all this time. Devojin mains, welcome. My fellow Raven mains, be very careful and be smart about how you use this hit smash. Raven's full crouch down forward 3 is without a doubt one of his best lows. The thing about this low is that you can be very gimmicky on how you use it, especially on block. So it leaves you in back turn, and the frame data on this move is ridiculous, right? So if you cancel the back turn after the full crouch down forward 3 is blocked, it's actually -14, meaning a character with a 14 frame launcher will actually punish you for this. Now, the tricky part about this low is that you can actually parry after doing this low on block. So you can use his back 2+4 parry or his forward 1+2 parry as well. So it opens up like some serious mind games, right? Boom, you throw out this low on block. The opponent thinks, okay, is he going to go for the parry? Or is it just going to cancel, right? If he cancels, he doesn't throw anything out, you're safe, right? You throw a parry, then he throws out outstanding 4 or outstanding 2 or something like that. You parry, they are punished, right? So it's kind of like a mix-up situation even on block, kind of like Leroy's down back 3, right? So it's a very, very good low. I encourage you to use it, experiment with it, and see how best you do with it. Not everyone is good using this low. I'm actually not that good as well at noticing that the opponent has blocked it, so I have to throw out a parry. But it's a very, very good low that Raven has. Raven's Souls on 4 is ideally only +4 on hit and -15 on block, which is launch punishable. However, depending on the distance at which you throw it out, you can actually make it as much as +8 on hit and -10 on block. So spacing on Souls on 4 is very, very important. It can be the difference between you actually dying for throwing it out or you baiting out your opponent's punish and you punishing them in the process because it's only -10 due to the spacing at which you throw it out. So it sets up some really pretty good gimmicks as well. You know, creative Raven players have found ways to make it safe almost every single time you throw it out. So this is something you need to work on as well. Find out the distance at which you can make his Soul Zone 4 pretty safe when you throw it out. So throughout this video, I've mentioned a few times about how Raven is a risky character, and this applies to most of his laws as well. Raven's laws either have pretty bad frame data on hit, or are reactable, or are launch punishable. If you're looking for a character that has good laws, I'm going to tell you right now, Raven is not that character. You want good laws, forget about that on Raven, right? Due to his mix-up potential and all that jazz, he has some pretty bad laws, to be honest with you. You have to make it work in a sense that you really throw your opponent off, which is pretty difficult with Raven. So you have to be very careful with some of Raven's laws. They might look pretty simple and decent, but most of them are actually pretty launch punishable and reactable. So there you have it, guys, some quick fire tips on how you can improve your Raven gameplay. Now I'll say this again, if you're a beginner or someone intermediate and you're really catching so many L's with Raven, don't be discouraged. Raven is a very difficult character to play, very difficult character to master. You have to dedicate so much time with this character, and I do feel he needs some buffs, but still, he's a character I love, he's a character I'm maining. If you're a Raven main, please subscribe. I will bring out more stuff Raven guide coming soon as well, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed my video, why not check out my other Raven videos, including why I think our boy needs some buffs. So GG my boys, and as usual, may the frame data be ever in your favor. GG.